What up, football people? Week 5, we are here. We did our trade away video. Now, these are the guys that you need to go and get right now. Make sure you get them on your team. They're going to help you, whether they're flex, any type of thing. We're going to go through the list, but they're going to help you in longevity wise. Who you got, Calvin? We'll start off.
Uh, Number one, I'm going to start with Alvin Kamara. And some people might think that this is a unrealistic trade. I don't think so, especially because I don't think his value is nearly where it was a couple years ago. Like a couple years ago, he was a low end first round pick, and then like the year before that, he was probably mid to first round. But like he was ADP. I want to say like 50 this year because of the 3 game suspension. Obviously, like that hurt his stock, sure, but also, a lot of people didn't know what the Saints were going to be. And to be fair, I still don't think we know what they are because that
I don't
offense
think
looks
the
abysmal.
Saints know what the Saints were going to be.
But in his first week back, Alvin Kamara looked like the Alvin Kamara of old. Because, 11 attempts rushing for 51 yards and 13 catches for 33 yards. Sounds like a PPR monster to me. Like, that's the guy I want on my team, especially because he plays the team he blew up against this week in the championship game for most fantasy seasons. So, um, besides that, like he has a pretty relatively easy schedule moving forward. There's not a lot of huge defensive teams that are going to lock him down. Receiving backs are kind of hard to defend, anyways.
Especially
Most
him.
most of the time, the linebackers are preoccupied with good tight ends. They got Jimmy Graham and they got Juwan Johnson too. Like there's a lot of responsibility for the defense on there. Alvin Kamara seems to be slipping wide open every time. So if you could trade for Alvin Kamara, don't break the bank by any means, but if you can get him for a late round push, especially if you're like a 1-3, 2-2 team, might be time to move on for some guys that you originally had during the draft that you thought were gonna be steals, and they just
So if somebody said I'll trade you Kamara, but I need a running back
sure.
in return, what would you
I
give up
think
for?
I think I honestly at this point I think I'm kind of selling on the Jameer Gibbs experiment for this year. I think like Jameer Gibbs, I might even trade not Raheem Mostert. Obviously, if you watched our last video, I think Ramondre Stevenson even I would trade for Alvin Kamara, especially because their schedules look so different towards the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Ramondre's got a way tougher schedule. The Saints have a pretty easy cakewalk. Defensively, in the couple games leading up to the fantasy championship, they played the Panthers, who are pretty sorry. I think we could agree on the Giants, who just can't seem to stop a wet paper towel. The Rams might be a tough test, but then again, like also it's Alvin Kamara going up against a team that has a decent defensive front, but those backers aren't that great. And then the Bucks again. So uh, I think anywhere in that mid-range running back, if you can trade for a heads up or maybe add in a player that's sitting on your bench right now, like a Tutu Atwell, like we talked about, I think that's a trade that you should 100% make.
Yeah, I think you definitely do a 2-for-1 for him, and somebody would be like, "Ooh, I'm getting a deal on this."
Right. Especially if they have a rich or an embarrassment of riches at running back, um, then I think they're going to be willing to move on from one of those for a stud. You might even be able to trade a star player, and get Alvin Kamara and somebody else. There's
Mm.
possibilities in that. So, um, but that's a guy who I think is going to help a lot of people win leagues.
That's why I picked Sam Laporta because
Hmm.
I think he's going to help people win league. Honestly, besides Kelsey, does he get used more than any tight end in football?
Besides from our boy Jake Ferguson, maybe, but
Yeah, Ferguson.
Yeah.
But also, like, does besides Kelsey, does any tight end used in the proper way like Laporta? Like they
no.
use him to his skill set. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
before he gets too fucking big in the head or people start overvaluing him, I'd be trying to go get Laporta. I, and he's like stupid big, so I don't think he's gonna get hurt.
That and he seems to always get targets. And my favorite saying is Zach knows and Nick as well. And if you're with us on Sunday mornings at 8 a.m., target shares matter.
Yes.
He's been consistent, and the Cowboys do have a daunting defense. Sure, they have good linebackers. However, I think that if there was ever a game to break out and lock up the division, because I still feel like the NFC North is going to be kind of tossed up towards the end of the year. If you do it against the Dallas Cowboys in the fantasy football championship,
But I feel like his willingness to chip and run on the line, like chipping on Parsons, chipping on whoever, you know what I'm saying, picking up and then going, is why he's so successful.
I
So
100%
like
agree.
I that's why I never give a shit about linebackers because I was like, he's gonna put you out of position by doing something extra.
I think it's about time with Sammy Laporta we start using the same kind of questions that we would ask about Travis Kelsey. Like, oh, playing the Eagles this week, but I'm not gonna not play Travis
I don't
Kelsey.
think it's
Like,
fair to Kelsey to say he gets Kelsey treatment, easily Kittle treatment though. Like he's that kind of player to me.
Like I feel like of course, as a tight end owner, if you have Kelsey, Mark Andrews, TJ, like those are the big three that you kind of just play. Kittle flirts with that here and there. I feel like Sam has to be in that big five right now. Like he's definitely flirting with it. Like I have no reason not to play you, bro. Your worst game, you gave me like 9 points. I mean, compared to other tight ends that went above you, giving me zeros, ones, like I feel like
I just think he's the perfect tight end. Like he's the perfect guy for any team, and you could get him probably on a good player for player trade right now.
and most people honestly probably are like, hey, I already have a tight end.
Hmm.
Some people I know I've seen they have Travis Kelsey, Mark Andrews, or TJ, and then they have him on their bench.
yeah.
And it's like, oh, look, give me I need a running back, I need a receiver. You can go get that for him, I think.
Here's Raheem Mostert.
Yep.
Give me Sammy Laporta and a wide receiver, and I'll be happy.
Give me a Samuel Laporta.
Samuel Laporta. Nick, who you got?
One of mine is I'm gonna go with T. Higgins, and this is a very difficult one because it also matters on Joe Burrow's health, which is very difficult to take. But I feel like most people that have T. Higgins, he's more of their flex type of player. And I feel like with one, he's injured, so it's week 5, bye week blues. People tend to get very scared when their players are injured. You could probably get something, a 2-for-1 for him or something in some shape or form. Whereas if T. Higgins does good later on down, it's because of Joe Burrow's health and everything. And I'm getting him more for the week 12, 13, 14, whenever I know, okay, Joe Burrow's going to be chunking that thing down to catch up in the division.
Which
That's
I,
Like it.
I definitely think they are going to be doing, by the way. Like, I
I
don't
like
think.
it.
And honestly, like, he came out and said, like, my ribs are fine. Like, it sounds like he might not even miss a week, but he's going to be playing with a flak jacket. So, I mean, but if that's the case, he has a tight schedule coming up. But after that, towards the end of the year, it's a cakewalk for the Bengals schedule
I just
wise.
think T. Higgins is the perfect player to go get because he has to be personally motivated, bro. If he
I think
wants to
so too.
get paid this year, he has to be personally motivated,
Yeah,
and that's kind of the player you want on your team.
yeah, I would agree. Who's your second one, Nick?
my other one is another flex. Surprisingly, Christian Kirk of the Jaguars.
I like it.
I know all eyes were on Calvin Ridley all year, but Christian Kirk seems to be my favorite word, security blanket for Trevor Lawrence. He just knows how to find this guy, and he knows how to get open for him. We saw it in the London game. He is just is at the right spot every single time. And then you look at his schedule at the end, and it just is a nice flex. Maybe flirts with wide receiver too, depending on your team. I just feel he's a consistent player that you are going to flirt with 10, 12, 15, maybe a big game here and there, but you don't have to worry about him. Keep him in there at your flex. Don't have to worry about him, and you're going to get value now. You'll get some
Mhm.
value now. You'll get value later. Whereas, some of the players that we put on our other one, they have big games, but so you could probably trade one
Man,
like a Tutu Atwell for him, and people would be like, "Oh, that's a good
if you
trade."
really watch that Jacksonville team, it's almost like Christian Kirk is their tight end.
Yeah,
The
it
way
seems
they,
like that.
that's kind of how I feel about that. And I was like, dude, you have one job: stand in the slot and run up the seam.
It's ironic
And
though because the Jaguar. It feels like the Jaguars use Christian Kirk as a tight end and Evan Ingram as a wide receiver, which makes no sense.
it's retarded, right? It's because Christian Kirk is so big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I like the Christian Kirk thing, and obviously a fantasy championship where you get to go up against a defense that sucks like the Carolina Panthers.
Can I shoot a flex out there for my number two?
Go ahead, go ahead.
I got Senior Zay Flowers.
Senior Zay Flowers.
I like it.
I mean, I just can't get it out of my head what he did to Houston in week 1. I think he had like 13 catches or something. Like the new system they have, it kind of promotes a player like him because I don't think Lamar exactly knows what he's doing, but Zay Flowers does a really good job of flowing, like keeping the ball in front of him and helping Lamar out. And it's like, dude, you're like a yards after catch king. So I would like him.
He's a yak guy, is what the people refer
Yak
to
guy.
him. I like the pick. I think, especially if like OBJ keeps having issues staying healthy, like Lamar's gonna have to spread the ball around to somebody. And I know we've been saying that for years about a wide receiver, but like when you have a guy who I mean, and I think week 1 it was 9 for 78 or something like that. It was 9 for 70 or 80. It was something like that, but he still had a pretty huge game on you guys. Like at the end of the day, if he proves it to you, if somebody tells you who they are, believe it. You know,
I pick Zay Flowers on the basis of I've seen this team play 2 or 3 times already, and the eye test tells me he's the best receiver on that team, and he's undervalued.
I don't mind that at all. I get it.
I
get it. So, for my final one, a guy who I think is going to help people win leagues, I got Isaiah Pacheco.
Ooh, I fucking love it.
I love Pacheco, dude. I love Pacheco for a long time. I think he's going into a stretch right now where he's going to be able to have a solid amount of good games. And I know he had a good game against the Jets. I get that. But he's probably still not the most valuable player to go out and get. Like, I think people are still going to be like willing to part with him for a pretty cheap price. You get to the Vikings this week, who against pass catching backs usually struggle. The Broncos, who struggle against everybody. The Chargers, who can't seem to stop, again, a wet paper towel. And then the Broncos again. Schedule gets a little tough for a little bit, but then he gets to finish with a fantasy championship against the Bengals, who, I mean, as we just talked about, they're going to be fighting towards the end of the year to try to stay relevant against the Chiefs team, where they're going to want to control time of possession usually. I mean, that just kind of adds up to grab the running back from that team. Also, they struggle against pass catching backs as well. Like,
the irony to all that is, I think that if you could get Pacheco like right now, it's the perfect time, because I do believe that the Kansas City Chiefs they are realizing the importance of giving the ball to Pacheco, since they don't have a wide receiver that they can trust.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like, when you have a pass catching back who can kind of fill that void, it almost makes everybody else, again, like, more valuable too, though. You know, like, it opens the game up for everybody else.
It's almost to what I felt like they were doing in the Jets game. Is like they were like, we're gonna run the ball with Pacheco in the first half because I can't afford to show all these plays because I need him for the second half because these dumbass receivers aren't catching the ball. So, like, I really feel like they're trying to grind a couple drives out with Pacheco, and you're bound to get points that way.
Also, he dominated the lion's share of carries this week against the Jets. He had 20 to the remaining amount of backs had a combined 8. Like 20 to 8 against 3 other guys is a pretty damn good snap share in the running back position, and especially if he's averaging 5.8 yards per carry. I think he's a steal, and he should be targeted by everybody.
I agree.
I've been trying to get him all week. So.
If you could trade Raheem Mostert and Tutu Atwell,
just to throw one
Isaiah
more in
Pacheco.
there before we bounce, because is Dalton Kincaid.
Man, listen, this is the one I'm going to argue on, because I am not trusting a damn Buffalo tight end ever.
I get you, but if you really look at Buffalo's games the past 2 weeks, they're weeding out Dawson Knox more and more, and I don't believe that's by accident.
I don't think it's by accident either, but
I do believe at some point Dalton Kincaid he's mid. If you go give me 10 points, that makes you a good tight end to me.
He hasn't got 10 points yet this season, though. That's the only
But
problem.
I think he's capable of it. Like, he can.
There's
no reason why that system shouldn't.
I agree the system should. Like, he should be throwing the ball to him a lot. Like, you would think that. But as we said on the previous last Sunday, Josh Allen's eventually going to say, fuck it. I'll take
run
it.
the ball.
Yeah.
I still think Dalton Kincaid I think he could help you.
Could he? Sure.
I
But
mean, he's only owned in 50% of ESPN leagues and 64% of Yahoo leagues.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could probably just pick him up at this point and keep him on your bench. I mean, some of you have Waller on your bench, and I mean, so
All that has to happen is Buffalo has to remember Gabe Davis isn't a football player, and then it's like, okay, Kincaid, you're up.
yeah,
yeah.
that's where we're at.
Some of these are gems. I like them. I actually like all of these. I'm gonna try to trade for them tonight. If you made it to this point, though, drop a comment down below for any of your trades. You got comments, we're always here to answer them. We'll write you a comment. You have IDP questions, that's Zach. Comment down below. Anything else, just let us know. Make sure you do the like, subscribe. It helps us out. If you're ever here Sunday mornings, 8 in the morning, like Calvin said, we are live every Sunday to help you out with who to start, who to sit, get you ready for them London games, get you ready for bye weeks. We got you covered. You do not want to miss Zach's picks. He's been right on who's going to blow up for the past 3 weeks or so, man.
He's been pretty hot right
4
now.
weeks, yeah.
It's been pretty
So,
hot.
That being said, though, much love, everybody. Good luck on these trades. Hopefully they work out for you. We're out of here, everybody. Later.
How much I'm working for this? I swear my dreams are too important.